Welcome to Mercer Moments in American History. Today is a special report. I'm asking for a prayer for a young Maryland high school senior. She's an honor student and she's a Christian. She's supposed to, in a few days, walk across the stage of all her friends and family there in their cap and gown. What a wonderful moment, but she's being denied graduation because 2 years ago, as a sophomore, she took a class in health. And the school board had changed the health class and injected some new items in that class, which her and her parents found objectionable. And also some items that they called clear Christian religious discrimination, anti-Christian bias. I'm going to report those things and let you decide. You always find at least 3 sources to draw from. I invite you to go online and find more sources. But right now, this young girl, this Christian honor student, is not being allowed to graduate. This is Ken Mercer. I hope you enjoyed today's program. Again, I'm asking you to pray for this young girl and her parents. When I say honor student, I always try to give you facts. Honor student. She has a 4.76 GPA grade point average. You say, Mr. Mercer, how can that be? You get 4 points for an A, 3 points for a B. How can she have 4.76? Well, now there are classes that have certain rigor. They're called either AP, Advanced Placement, Honors classes, or DC, Dual Credit. These classes have so much rigor, they're so hard, you can receive not only high school graduation credit, but college credit. And obviously she's taken all of these classes. And I had to applaud her and her parents because this process has been happening the last 2 years. She continued to do her studies, continued to take hard classes. Again, advanced placement, dual credit, honors classes, much rigor, to where she's graduated with a 4.76 grade point average. She also took the SAT, the National College Examination Test, and she scored a 1450. That's 1,450. That's important because that means she scored higher than 96% of American youth. That means she's in the top 4% of all students in our entire nation. And yet this Christian girl, this honor student, currently, as I speak, is not being allowed to graduate because 2 years ago she took a health class. So the parents and the young girl asked, can we take another health class or have an accommodation or take it somewhere else or take the objectionable material out of the class or opt out of certain materials? I was blessed to be in the Texas House of Representatives, the Committee of Higher Education, and later in the Texas State Board of Education for a total of 16 years. I've had parents before coming to me with these same kind of concerns, and particularly the health class, the health and human sexuality, and ask for an accommodation or ask to opt out of certain sections. And I've been to that battle before. But again, the young girl and her parents have tried for 2 years, it's a sophomore year, to have some sort of accommodation. Nothing's been worked out. And all of a sudden, it's 2 years later, and this Christian honor student is supposed to graduate in a few days, and she's being denied graduation. Let's talk quickly what a health class should be in high school and in being required for graduation. This is a year-long class, and you expect things like maybe nutrition, study the needs for vitamins and fruits and vegetables and nutrients, for hygiene, about washing your hands, about coughing in your elbow, especially during the time of COVID, about wearing masks. Kids learn about drug and alcohol abuse, about the signs and the risk and rehabilitation. Some schools, not all of them, I never could figure out why they wouldn't talk about the life cycle of an unborn baby. When they form fingers and toes, when there's brain development, when they have a heartbeat, when they feel pain. Some schools offer a section on first aid, basic first aid, CPR. What do you do when someone stops breathing or their heart starts beating? Sexually transmitted diseases, STDs. I know there's other terms now. What are the diseases? What are the risks? For a young girl, especially your chance of ever getting pregnant or any risk to the unborn children you carry. There's even in a lot of health classes a section on bullying. Those are things that are pretty much taught throughout the nation. However, again, throughout the nation, I've seen this exact same problem occur. A school district, either a district or a state board of education, would mandate some other curriculum. And what happened this time was particularly, and I'm going to share with you some facts that came from, again, I have 3 resources out there because I like to go by facts only. But apparently what they injected was the LGBTQ plus curriculum, which is the gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgendered. Q plus is queer questioning. I thought maybe in the health class they would talk about biological males and biological females and avoid some of the politicalness, but it was decided to enter this material into the class. And here's the killer. When I read through it, the board apparently decided that it would not be one section, because as one section, a parent could say, well, we're not going to be there for that day or that week. Or this new ideology would be throughout the curriculum. And whether you're studying nutrition or hygiene or drug and alcohol abuse or first aid or whatever, they want you to incorporate new, if you will, ideology that, as you know, has been questioned all throughout the nation and raised concerns. What happened in this mandatory health class, my understanding, again, I've looked at least 3 sources, find some more and let me know what else you find it. The school board had injected a LGBTQ plus affirming language in the class. In a health class, you think we're going to talk about biological males and biological females. And I know you've heard this argument before about boys in the girls' bathrooms taking showers in the girls' shower on the same sports teams competing against them. Well, this is also happening throughout our country, and you know that's happened. But she's being denied graduation in a few days because they found this class objectionable, and they also complained about religious discrimination, and I'll share some of the facts there. In August of 22, the parents enrolled her in a health class for upcoming sophomore year, which is required by the school board for graduation, and it had not been the same health class as previously offered. So what changed was not the student. The parents didn't change, but from my research understanding, what changed is the school board introduced this new philosophy. I'm going to tell you, in my 16 years as elected official of Texas, when I've spoken to parents, hundreds of parents, there's classroom education and there's political indoctrination. Now, hear what I'm saying. I'm just making a statement. This is from Ken Mercer, my personal opinion. There's classroom education and there's political indoctrination. And there's a difference. And it's happened all across America. It's even happened in my home state of Texas, but today it's about the state of Maryland. News reports found some of the screenshots of the teacher's guides. For example, he talked about privileged and oppressed people. I'm not sure why that's in a health class, but the school felt in the health class they should talk about privileged and oppressed people, and that should be incorporated not just in one section, one day or 1 week, but throughout the entire year of that class. And Christians were called privileged. Now, what does religion do in the school? I thought a lot of schools didn't want to do religion, but Christians, and they call it Abrahamic religions, which I guess would be Christian and Jewish, those are privileged. And non-Abrahamic religions are called oppressed. Throughout the curriculum, you're taught that Christians are privileged and non-Christians are oppressed groups. Injected this into the entire health curriculum. If they'd not done that, we wouldn't be here right now. This young girl would have finished her sophomore class and be graduating now with honors in an incredible SAT score. That's not happening. Now, I will note, the research that I have, apparently some parents have decided to either move to another district, which means you're going to pay, in some states, an interdistrict fee to go somewhere else. Some parents have decided to send their kids to a private school. Some have done homeschooling. But those parents are still taxpayers, and they're still paying for this school to educate children, their children, other children. I will tell you, the parents have followed the process. First, they went to the school. Then they went to the county school board. Then they went to the state board of education. Then it went through the court process, eventually the appellate courts, and now it's gone to the Maryland Supreme Court, the highest court in Maryland. I will tell you there's a related case I'll talk about later in the same state of a coalition of parents complaining about using their tax money to buy inappropriate material, sexual material for children. And this Supreme Court case, the U.S. Supreme Court, includes parents who are Christian, who are Jewish, and who are Muslim, who are coming together saying, this material for our children, and even for some of our youngest children in kindergarten, is inappropriate. So I'm discussing to you has happened not just in Maryland, but throughout the nation. But again, we're talking about the state of Maryland. The parents filed a separate but related complaint or brief against the school in March of this year over requesting class documents. They found that when they asked for public information, the school board, quote, knowingly and willfully, end of quote, knowingly and willfully withheld public information, which is a violation of the Maryland Public Information Act. I will tell you, in Texas, I've had this problem before. And parents, you just want to see, you would think there'd be a parent's Bill of Rights, as there should be an educator classroom Bill of Rights. But the parents should have a Bill of Rights to see what's being taught in the classroom. Actually, any taxpayer, you're paying for that. But in Texas, the good news is we passed a law that moms and dads have the right in Texas to see what's being taught in class. The bad news is we had to pass a law in Texas saying that moms and dads should have the right to see what's being taught in a class. And hopefully in your state, not just Maryland, anybody listening in your country too, some of my foreign viewers on my podcast or YouTube, that you have a law of the same thing, where moms and dads have the right to see. But I will caution you, what I learned in Texas, especially in the health classes, I was in a session with a meeting with a group of my Catholic friends, great family association together, and they had handouts of certain curriculum in the health class, by the way, same type of class, but in Texas. And the parents would say, well, yeah, that curriculum, that's okay. That module's fine. And they show what's actually taught in class. And what the students were taught was in no way equal or like what the parents were told was going to be taught. And some of the trick nowadays at the computer age is two things. One, there's links in classes, links. And of course, if you're given material to look online, but you're not given access to those links. And these parents are objecting to these links, to who sponsors them and what parents are not seeing in the classroom because that's in a computer link. I will tell you, during COVID, you probably noticed that a lot of the classes, you did class at home, school at home, right? Because of COVID. And parents would call me and say, I'm walking by, my kid is studying history or government. I said, what is that? What are they teaching you there? Well, parents, because of COVID, became more aware of what's being taught. Actually, what happened, there was an explosion of homeschooling throughout our country. The parents were so upset when they saw during COVID what was being taught when you had school at home, but specifically in this class, in health class. I know in my home state of Texas, there are some districts actually specifically pulled down the health class. They did not want moms and dads seeing what's being taught. Mom and dad might walk by your computer. What is that? What has that got to do with health? Well, I tell you that because these parents again in Maryland were complaining and a separate filing complaint against the district because for freedom of information, not being allowed to see what's being taught in the classroom, which ought to be a basic right of all parents. And again, the classes, they had lists, provide teachers' guides with lists of privileged and oppressed people groups. What's that got to do with health? And the privileged groups were Christians. And the non-privileged or the oppressed groups were called non-Abrahamic religions. They were oppressed. And it invites teachers to have students identify people who's impacted by health inequalities. I thought that meant maybe like if you don't have access to good food, nutrition, fruits and vegetables, meat. That's not what it meant at all. Health inequalities are, quote, trans or gender expansive. LGBTQ plus people. Again, I'm going to repeat. Health inequality such as trans or gender expansive LGBTQ plus people. Not being hateful, just giving you the truth. Ken Mercer didn't do it. The students didn't do it. The moms and dads of Maryland in that county did not do it. It was the school board. A handout said for teachers to be aware of what's called, quote, worship of the written word, end of quote. I could see a young boy or girl in a classroom say, well, my faith says this. My faith says we love all people, but this is wrong. My faith says we care for everyone, we show our love, we respect people, but this is wrong. We cannot condone this kind of practice. And ask teachers to recognize, are you ready for this? Quote, again, worship of the written word, end of quote. Students who worship the written word, I guess that means the Bible, the Old and New Testament. And to recognize, quote, white supremacy culture, end of quote. Again, white supremacy culture in the classroom and at the students' homes. What is going on? What happened to the First Amendment? The very first freedom we have, is freedom of religion. What happened to that? And what I'm reading to you right now is not happening in communist China or communist Cuba. It's happened in a place called the United States of America, in the state of Maryland. So you can see where I'm at, and you can tell I favor the student and the parents because I've seen it. Again, my 16 years as an elected official, I've seen it before. I know what it looks like. I know what it smells like, and it's wrong. This is not unique to one county. This is not unique to the state of Maryland. I'm telling you, it's happening throughout a place called the United States of America. We need your blessings. We need your prayers. This is Ken Mercer of Mercer Moments in American History, and asking again today, please pray for this young girl, this young senior, high school senior, Christian honor student, that she be allowed to walk across stage in the next few days and graduate. Pray for her mom and dad. God bless them. This has been a 2-year process, and they've been there literally standing in the gap for their daughter and standing for their faith and values, and standing up against what they believe to be inappropriate sexual material, and also to be an attack, to be religious discrimination. Pray for the Maryland Supreme Court and their decisions. And then pray, I'm going to ask you humbly to pray for that local school board. That local school board. There are some questions there that need to be asked. Do moms and dads have rights? Do parents have the right to see what's being taught in the classroom? And do school boards have the right to buy whatever they want in material and use your tax money? I report, you decide. Thank you, my friends. Pray. God bless you.